Today we gonna identify the characteristics of business forms as we have learned. In detail, business forms are divided into 4 categories, which is we have sole proprietorship, partnership, private limited company and public limited company.
Next, introduction of sole proprietorship. The sole proprietorship, also known as ownership, which is the business can be owned and controlled by an individual. So, how the capital raised for the business? The capital contributed by the owner from personal savings, loans from relatives and friends, and the last one, loans from financial institutions. For our information, the size of capital is small because it's owned by individual. Sole proprietorship registration. Ownership business are registered with Commission of Malaysia under the Business Registration Act 1957. Next, documentation that required for sole proprietorship. Alright, first of all, if you want to start the business of sole proprietorship, you need to prepare some documentation. An example, you need to prepare a copy of the business owner identity card. Second, a business name as proposed by the owner. Third, the nature of business of the company, the official business address, and the last one, a letter approval from a government agency. In sole proprietorship, we have liability of ownership business. Ownership has an unlimited liability, which is if the business fails and the assets are not enough to cover the debt, so the creditors have a right against the owner's personal properties. And the last one that was very important is about profit and loss. Profit, it belongs to the owner, and losses incurred will be borne by the owner. Business sole proprietorship in Malaysia, we have Muhibah Bakery that stand by its own.
Next, let's discuss about partnership, so that you guys know that partnership can be owned by 2 until 20 partners. However, that also can be professional partnership, which is they have owned by 2 until 50 partners. Besides that, contributed by partners according to the Agreemental Partnership Act 1961, according to the percentage agreed, the size of capital is larger than sole proprietorship. Then let's talk about registration of partnership. Partnership are registered with the Companies Commission of Malaysia under the Business Registration Act 1956 and 1957. If we want to start a partnership business, there is documentation required. First, clear copies of the identity cards of the owners. Second, the proposed name of your business. Then, a document detailing your business activities. Last but not least is relevant permits if needed. Liability of partnership business has an unlimited liability, which is if the business fails and the assets are not enough to cover the debt, so the creditors have a right against the partners' personal properties. Profit and loss for partnership will be shared by partners according to their profit sharing ratio as stated in that partnership agreement or Partnership Act 1961. For example, partnership business in Malaysia, we have Polyclinic, Nik Amir Nazmi dan rakan-rakan.
Now let's talk about private limited company. First, we have ownership. The private limited company can be owned by 2 until 50 shareholders. Shares are offered to a certain group of people only and not open to the public. Shares are not listed in the share market. Now let's talk about capital contribution. Capital collected from the unit of share box. The size of capital is quite large. Next, we have registration of partnership. Register with Company Commission of Malaysia as required by Company Act 2016. We should put Private Limited Sdn Bhd at the end of the company name. Now let's talk about documentation that required for partnership. First, we need to have the type and name of the business. Next, we need to have the nature and a brief description of your business. Then, your company needs a director and a shareholder detail. Lastly, the information regarding the person who has submitted the application. Now, let's go for the liability of private limited company. Did you know this company have limited liability? If the business fail and the assets are not enough to cover the debt, the creditor do not have a right against the shareholder property. Lastly, we have profit and loss. Profit will be paid to shareholder in the form of dividend. For example, Syarikat Amran Sdn Bhd is a private limited company.
Next, public limited company ownership. Public limited company have been owned to unlimited number of shareholders. The ownership is open to the public through the selling of shares. Shares are listed in the share market. Other than that, capital contribution contributed by shareholders through purchase of company's shares. The size of capital is large. Next, registration of public limited. Registered with Companies Commission of Malaysia under Companies Act 2016. Next, documentation that required for partnership. 1. The name of company such as the name shall end with the word Berhad. 2. Director minimum 2 natural person who is at least 18 years of age. 3. Share capital. 4. Member minimum 1. 5. Registered office. 6. Company secretary. 7. Constitution. Beside that, liability of private limited company. This company have limited liability. If the business fails and the assets are not enough to cover the debts, the creditors do not have a right against the shareholders' properties. Last but not least, profit and loss. Profit will be paid to shareholders in the form of dividends.
The conclusion, after all of the discussion, we choose sole proprietorship for our own business. It is because the sole proprietorship have a low risk, such as they no need to have conflict with other partners. Other than that, sole proprietorship is freedom and flexibility of running your business, as a sole proprietorship are included in this business structure.